Episode 14, You Promised to Accompany Me Tonight. A fierce scene with the handsome rival? Ningxi was on the brink of madness at this point. She lowered her voice and asked, I should be the one asking you. How do you know Lu Tingxiao? Jiong replied, I already told you he's my uncle. Ningxi said, but why didn't you tell me earlier? Jiong retorted, you didn't ask either. Ningxi fell into silence. Jiong Mai's gaze shifted between the two of them, and he started feeling that something was amiss but couldn't quite put his finger on it. It's a long story, Ningxi sighed wearily, addressing both Jiong Mai and Lu Tingxiao. Jiong Mai seemed to be bursting with questions but hesitated to ask them in front of Lu Tingxiao. Just as Ningxi was about to leave the room, she suddenly felt the weight of Lu Tingxiao's gaze on her. He asked, Are you planning to stay here or come with me? His words were simple, but they carried a tremendous amount of pressure. Jiong Mai was shocked, and his face was filled with disbelief. What did this mean? Did these two know each other, and were they living together? Ningxi looked at the cold and imposing Lu Tingxiao and then at Jiong Mai, whose eyes were almost shooting flames. After swallowing hard, she said with difficulty, I think I'll go back. The icy aura surrounding Lu Tingxiao lessened slightly. However, Jiong Mai instantly exploded. He grabbed Ningxi's wrist and looked at her with a mixture of nervousness and betrayed anger. You promised to accompany me tonight. As soon as he said that, Ningxi was tempted to give him a good punch. Was it really necessary to be so ambiguous, young man? She pulled her hand back and patiently reasoned with him, I still have to work on my scenes tomorrow. Mingji mentioned that you have something to do early in the morning as well. How about we play games together another time when both of us are free? Ningxi emphasized the words, play games, on purpose. Having said that, she quickly picked up her large black bag and used it to cover the hole in her clothes. She fled from this awkward place as if her life depended on it. Lu Tingxiao gave Jiong Mai a deep look and calmly followed Ningxi. Watching the two of them leave, and the way Lu Tingxiao had gazed at his belongings as if making a declaration before departing, Jiong Mai's eyes flared with anger. Damn it. No wonder she knew so quickly that the road was blocked. Ningxi, what else are you hiding from me? At this moment, Ningxi was running back, trembling, with her bag in hand. Suddenly, it felt lighter as Lu Tingxiao took it from her. Then, her shoulders felt a little heavier as Lu Tingxiao draped his coat over them. Thank you, Ningxi said awkwardly. Lu Tingxiao remained cold and unresponsive. If he had responded, she might have been able to deal with it. It was his current expression that was making her nervous. Back at the Lu residence. After changing into her pajamas, Ningxi dashed to find Little Bun. Little treasure, tonight, Auntie is a little scared of the dark. Can I sleep with you? Ningxi asked with an earnest expression. Little Bun was naturally thrilled and happily gave her half of the bed. Thank you, my dear. Good night, Ningxi said gratefully. She thought, you're my lucky charm tonight, protecting me. Today had been too exciting, and her heart was still pounding rapidly. She could feel that the thin veil between her and Lu Tingxiao had become quite fragile after today. One more push, and it might break. If that happened, she truly didn't know how to handle it. Luckily, Little Bun had an incredible calming effect on her. She closed her eyes, and after half an hour of lying there, she gradually fell asleep. With Ningxi now asleep thanks to Little Bun's presence, she entered a deep slumber. Meanwhile, someone else in the Lu residence couldn't find rest. In the study, the smell of smoke was so heavy that it seemed to be rising to the sky. No wonder Chang Feng hadn't been able to figure out who the two people were who had delivered a gift to Ningxi on the film set all these days, and one of them was even an inside man. Wu Yao, the Demon King. Lu Tingxiao suddenly recalled that they had a family group chat, and Jiong Mai used this peculiar name as his nickname in the group. However, he had never made the connection before. In addition, there were no clues regarding the man who signed his initials as YS. In the darkness, the man extinguished his cigarette and left the room. Gently pushing open the door to the guest room, it was empty. Lu Tingxiao's brows furrowed slightly, and he went to the room next door. As expected, Ningxi was sleeping soundly with Little Bun. This girl was quite clever. But did she think that everything would be fine like this? Lu Tingxiao walked over to the small bed, carefully moved Little Bun's hand away from Ningxi's clothes, and replaced it with a plush toy. Then, he picked up Ningxi and carried her away. Little Bun frowned slightly in his sleep, reaching out to hold the plush toy. After deceiving his son, Lu Tingxiao took Ningxi to the master bedroom. He gently placed her on the bed, then sat on the edge of the bed, lightly tracing his rough fingertips over her hair, her eyes, her cheeks. He was like a beast about to feast, extremely patient and enjoying this moment before devouring his prey. Finally, he sighed and leaned down, covering her soft lips with a kiss. Just as he had imagined, her lips tasted sweet and tender. Then, he kissed her cheek, her earlobe, down her neck, lingering on her collarbone. For the past 32 years, he had never loved anyone, and he had never thought that love had any meaning for him. Love was perhaps the most useless thing for him. So, he thought it didn't matter if he was devoid of desire or love. He had never expected that love would sweep over him in such a torrential manner one day. This girl, who was 8 years younger than him, had made him into an entirely different person. Life was no longer a cold, rigid schedule and data for him. It was now filled with warmth, dreams, and sweetness. However, it also came with irritability, impetuosity, and desire. Thinking about the scene earlier at Jiong place, his heart's irritability burst out of its cage. He unconsciously used more force, and the next moment, the air was filled with a bloody scent, mingling with the scent of their kisses. The girl beneath him furrowed her brow, but Lu Tingxiao immediately froze, and she simply touched her lips before returning to deep slumber. She appeared carefree and unaffected. Lu Tingxiao lightly brushed her swollen, glossy lips with his fingertip. His eyes burned with desire, as if he wanted to kiss her awake, no matter the consequences. The next morning, Ningxi woke up naturally after a peaceful night's sleep. She had slept well last night, so what could be bothering her tongue? Did she bite it while dreaming? She chided herself for being too cruel to herself. Breakfast proceeded as usual. Lu Tingxiao, dressed in a suit and tie, sat at the table, sipping coffee and reading the newspaper. He had the same cold and distant expression as always, as if nothing had happened the night before. Ningxi breathed a sigh of relief and wondered if she was just being too sensitive. Perhaps Lu Tingxiao had some vague affection for her, but it didn't seem to be enough for him to be jealous, right? Maybe he was just worried about his nephew. Lu Tingxiao appeared perfectly normal, but Little Bun's expression was a bit strange. Since early morning, Little Bun had been sulking, as if he had lost something precious. Ningxi handed a soup dumpling to Little Bun and asked, concerned, "Darling, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well?" Little Bun glanced at his natural father, who was acting as if nothing had happened, and his expression became even angrier. However, he remembered that Auntie Ningxi loved his smile, so he forced a smile, indicating that he was fine. He felt angry but had to maintain a smile. Ningxi finally relaxed and quickly finished her breakfast. "I'm leaving now. Take your time." Today, the second male lead was joining the filming, so she wanted to arrive early. As she was about to leave, Little Bun, for some unknown reason, walked over to her and tugged on her clothes. Ningxi asked, puzzled, "What's wrong?" Seeing her confusion, Little Bun looked pitiful, as if he had been wronged, and was almost on the verge of tears. Ningxi scratched her head, unable to figure out what she had done wrong. In the end, she turned to look at Lu Tingxiao at the dining table for help. Lu Tingxiao glanced at her and calmly reminded her, "You forgot the farewell kiss." Ningxi smacked her forehead and suddenly remembered. She had developed the habit of giving Little Bun a kiss on the cheek every day before leaving. However, in her hurry this morning, she had forgotten. She quickly gave Little Bun a peck and then left. After bidding Auntie Ningxi farewell, Little Bun turned to his biological father. His adorable face immediately changed to an expression that seemed to say, "Don't think that you've helped me, so I'll forgive you." Lu Tingxiao, seemingly oblivious to his son's angry gaze, calmly sipped his coffee and said, "I can't understand what you're trying to express. If you want to talk to me, you need to speak up or write it down." Little Bun, now even angrier, wrote a word on the notepad, "Thief." Lu Tingxiao glanced at the word and pretended not to understand. "What's wrong? Did someone break into our house?" This time, Little Bun pouted, looking even more upset. He quickly wrote several words on the notepad, "Last night, you stole Auntie Ningxi." Seeing the complete sentence, with a clear subject, verb, and object, Lu Tingxiao finally seemed satisfied. He put down the newspaper, looked at his son, and asked with a meaningful tone, "You don't want Auntie Ningxi to become my wife?" "Mine," Little Bun wrote on the notepad. Lu Tingxiao raised an eyebrow. "Unfortunately, you two aren't compatible. You're 19 years younger than her. Do you expect the girl to wait for you to grow up for so many years?" Little Bun lowered his head and drew a picture of a broken egg. Looking at the vividly drawn bad egg, Lu Tingxiao smiled. But what I said is the truth, isn't it? After a pause, he continued, his voice extremely tempting. However, if she becomes my wife, it will be different. She will become your mother. Mother? Upon hearing this word, Little Bun hesitated, his young face showing signs of struggle and wavering. Today on the set, things were just as usual, with no significant changes despite the arrival of the second male lead. Zhao Xizhou, the first male lead, was surrounded by a group of adoring girls, eagerly listening to his stories about his illustrious career in the entertainment industry. Jia Qingqing and Ning Xuelua had become closer recently and were discussing the diamond bracelet her father had bought her. Ning Shi, on the other hand, couldn't help but look anxiously towards the entrance. After all, she had many scenes with the second male lead, and his performance would greatly affect her role in the drama. Jia Qingqing, playing with her wrist, wearing a shining diamond bracelet, had a disdainful expression. Xuelua, look at her waiting for a man so eagerly. She takes the director's words so seriously. Does she think she can find her Prince Charming here? Ning Xuelua sighed, Qingqing, don't be so hard on Ning Shi. She has the most scenes with the second male lead, so it's natural for her to be more concerned. Jia Qingqing snorted and didn't even look outside. She then looked at Ning Xuelua enviously and said, you're the best, Xuelua. Your boyfriend is so handsome, and your co-star is also so good-looking. At this moment, the director, Guo Qixing, excitedly called out at the entrance, come on, everyone, gather around. Our second male lead, who plays the role of Dr. Sun Huanqing, has arrived. Let's all welcome him. The response from the crew was scattered. Zhao Xizhou showed no intention of standing up, and the young girls were still hanging around him, eager to have him read their palms. Jia Qingqing reluctantly cut in. Ning Xuelua freshened up her makeup and suggested, let's go say hello. They're our colleagues, after all. Only then did Jia Qingqing reluctantly follow her out of the dressing room. Ning Shi was the first to rush over to greet the newcomer. Just as she was peering outside, she froze the next second, as if struck by a thunderbolt. The man beside the director was that eye-catching blonde hair. She tried to deceive herself, but it was impossible. Why was the second male lead? This couldn't be true. At the entrance, the production assistant, Xiao Li, suddenly screamed as if her life depended on it. Jia Qingqing furrowed her brow and said, what's wrong with her? She's crazy. Why is she shouting like that? As she finished speaking, she followed Xiao Li's gaze and saw the man following the director. She screamed too. What's wrong? Ning Xuelua asked. Jiong Mai. Xuelua, it's Jiong Mai. Jia Qingqing excitedly pinched Ning Xuelua's arm. What? Ning Xuelua followed her line of sight. At the entrance, the director walked ahead, being extremely attentive and polite. Next to him was a man with golden hair, wearing trendy shorts and a t-shirt with bold colors. He had one hand in his pocket, a face full of arrogance and a mischievous yuppie vibe. When he smiled and looked over, he revealed a cute pair of tiger teeth. Jiong Mai. The second male lead was actually Jiong Mai. Even Ning Xuelua was stunned by this revelation. At this moment, the girls who had been surrounding Zhao Xizhou earlier had rushed to the entrance like a pack of hungry wolves. Is it really Jiong Mai? Am I seeing things? Pinch me. Oh my god. He truly is the walking aphrodisiac. He's so handsome. I heard Jiong Mai even has fans who are grandmas in their 80s. He doesn't let anyone escape. Don't stop me. I've finally seen him in person. I'm going to sleep with him. Life is no different from a salted fish if I don't get to sleep with Jiong Mai. Who is the hottest young actor in the entertainment industry today? No matter who you ask, they will tell you one name, Jiong Mai. Jia Qingqing still couldn't accept this fact and paced back and forth, saying, is there a mistake somewhere? Wasn't Jiong Mai filming abroad? Even if he returned, how could he play a minor role? Ning Xuelua pondered and replied, it's said that Jiong Mai only plays the lead, and this drama's main investor is Starlight. Why would a flourishing artist like him come to play this role? Jia Qingqing, who had been relieved that she didn't have to compete for Jiong Mai, was now nearly going crazy. Damn it. Why does Ning Shi have such good luck? Jiong Mai was supposed to be mine. It's all her fault for shamelessly stealing my role. The other onlookers looked at Jia Qingqing with some sympathy, and her meltdown wasn't surprising to them. Everyone in the entertainment industry knew that Jia Qingqing had a crush on Jiang Mai and had even publicly declared her love for him on social media. Despite Jiang Mai never responding to her, she often shared information related to him on her social media, displaying the demeanor of an infatuated fangirl. Director Guo Qixing managed to calm down the crazy girls with great effort and teasingly said, "Mai, look at what you've done to the girls on our set. The treatment for handsome guys is fantastic." Jiang Mai playfully replied to the director, "Director, haven't you heard? They just want to sleep with me, so you have to protect me. Haha, don't worry. Your partner is the war god Meng Chang'e. She'll protect you. By the way, where's Ningxi? She was pestering me about who the second male lead is. Why isn't she here?" Guo Qixing asked while looking around. Jiang Mai grinned mysteriously and said, "Could it be that she got scared and ran away because of me? It's quite possible. Almost all the girls in the country are your fans. Maybe Ningxi is too. She might have been startled by seeing her idol." Guo Qixing laughed. As they spoke, Ningxi approached them. In just a short time, Ningxi had perfected her facial expression. She smiled and extended her hand towards the person opposite her, saying, "Mr. Jiang, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Ningxi, and I'm honored to work with you." Although Ningxi and Jiang Mai were the same age, Jiang Mai had started his career earlier, so she needed to show some respect to him as her senior. "Hello?" Jiang Mai smiled, shook her hand gently, and nearly threw her hand away the next moment. This darn girl was about to crush his bones. Struggling to maintain his handsome demeanor, Jiang Mai suddenly acted as if he had just realized something and said, "Ah, Ningxi, it's you. What? Do you know each other?" Director Guo Qixing was surprised, and he wasn't the only one. The entire crew had their eyes fixed on Jiang Mai. Jiang Mai smiled ambiguously, making people wonder, "Of course, we do." Listening to the provocative tone of his words and seeing the unusual looks from everyone, Ningxi was so angry that her hands were trembling. She was struggling to contain the urge to beat him to a pulp. Seeing Ningxi's face turn pale, Jiang Mai finally spoke slowly, "We collaborated during the filming of Blue Bird." "Oh? Why didn't Ningxi ever mention it?" Director Guo Qixing was surprised. Not only the director, but everyone in the crew was now focused on Jiang Mai. Ningxi felt like she had narrowly escaped death, and her back was covered in sweat. She humbly replied, "Director Guo, I was just a stunt double for the female lead at that time. It's difficult to blame Jiang Mai for remembering me." Director Guo Qixing was delighted, saying, "Oh, I didn't know you two had this kind of connection. That's great. Since you've worked together before and know each other, we don't need much time to adjust. How about we have a more intense confrontation scene today?" Ningxi, confrontation scene? More intense? Please, director, don't. They're not familiar with each other. Jiang Mai grinned happily, sure. Ningxi couldn't help but want to pluck that evil little Feng out of his mouth.